August 25th is the Sylacauga city election. Joining us today is Rick Morris, candidate for mayor of the city of Sylacauga. And Rick, appreciate you being with us today. And we're going to talk a little bit about who Rick Morris is. You're a hometown guy that's been very, very successful in life. Talk about Rick Morris a little bit.
Well, you know, Jimmy Dale, last time I was here, I think we talked about me growing up here and living in the Mill Village, and for the first 13 years of my life, and then after that my dad was hired with the city, and we moved out to the waterworks. The part of his package was they built us a house out there, and I live right next door to the waterworks out there at Lake Howard, and just growing up out at Lake Howard, it's always meant a lot to me. And
what do you remember about growing up in Sylacauga?
Well, I tell you what, there's a lot. I used to love to hunt and fish out there at Lake Howard, and I think I mentioned this. I had friends in the Mill Village, and then I moved out to Lake Howard, and I had people that was raised up with in the Mill Village, and I went to school at Sylacauga and had Sylacauga friends and Comer friends, so I was lucky to know a lot of people. So
a lot of those people are still friends today.
Even though I left Sylacauga when I graduated high school, my parents lived here all my life, and like I said, my dad worked for the utility board for 45 years, I think. But we come back to Sylacauga a lot to visit, because my mom and dad loved to see my daughter, and she was, of course, little, and we come back to Sylacauga a lot. I've never really lost contact with Sylacauga, because I've always maintained my friends here, and I visit them when I'd come back home, and when I'd come home, I used to go out to the country club and play a lot of golf out there with some guys. So, I've never really lost contact with Sylacauga, even though I didn't live here.
Your family very special to you.
Oh yeah, my mom is she's
still going today.
Oh yeah, she's and she corrected me. Last time I was on your show,
just like a mother.
She corrected me. She said, "Now, son," said, "do you know that your dad worked for the utility board? He did not work for the city." I said, "Okay, I made a mistake, Mom. I'm sorry, Mom." But she corrected me, and she's her mind is pretty sharp, but. Her body is kind of giving way on her a little bit. She has a hard time walking and all. But
what about the day at Sylacauga High School? You graduated from there.
Yeah. I graduated in 1974 from Sylacauga. I played football. I was fortunate enough to be voted the captain of the football team, and I've always been involved in the S Club around here with Coach Lewis. I've always maintained my membership here with the S Club, and I always helped out with that with Coach Lewis and all. And he was one of my coaches in high school. And Sylacauga has just always been a dear place for me. And when I traveled a lot, I think we touched on this, when I had my business, But people would say, "Well, Rick, where are you from?" "Well, I live in Atlanta," but I'd always tell them that I grew up in Sylacauga. And you'd be surprised, some of the people had heard of Sylacauga, and I'm talking about people all over the country, and they said, "Well, I never heard of Sylacauga. How you say that and how you spell it?" And I'd say, "Well, okay, this is how you spell it." And I'd say, "Well, you've heard of Jim Neighbors, right? Gomer Powell, Andy Griffin Show." Yeah. And I'd have to explain about our marble and Jim Neighbors growing up here and that kind of thing. So I've always been proud to say that I was living in Atlanta, but I would always say that I grew up in Sylacauga, Alabama. So I would always make it a point to tell people that.
What's so special about Sylacauga?
Well, I think it's the people. There's some good people here. There really is, and it's just it was a good place to grow up, and I think we've kind of gotten away from that a little bit, because we touched on this before. Growing up here, we had 2 swimming pools, we had a movie theater, we had a skating rink, we had all the things that a kid wants to do, and now we don't have any of that, and it's just it's sad that we don't have any of that. Nothing for the kids to do, really. I mean, so.
You graduated from Sylacauga High School, been very successful in business. Talk about that part of Rick Marsh's life.
Well, you know, Jimmy Dale, I've been lucky. I mean, I think you have to have a lot of breaks in life, good breaks, and I think you have to work hard. And I was with a large corporation, trucking corporation, for many years, and I just felt like it, you know, I needed to do something else, so I left them. A buddy of mine that I worked with very closely, we worked together, traveled together a lot. I was in national accounts with this company, and I called on people all over the country and trying to get business for our company. But we, like I said, we had a vision that we used to give these they were old, what we call routing guides, and they come in boxes, and they were about this high, and the routing guides were about this thick. And what it was you'd have to flip the pages and find, you know, if you were shipping a lot of freight, you had to look up where the point you were shipping to, and it was just a pain in the butt. Excuse my language, but it was. And you had to flip through these old routing guides, and every carrier would give you one, and you'd have if you were a traffic manager, you had a stack of these, and you had to flip through, and we'd give these things out, and they were heavy, you know, and you had to take them with you and give them out. And a good friend of mine who wound up being my business partner, we said there's got to be a better way. So we developed some software where all you had to do was put 2 zip codes in, the origin and the destination zip codes, and it would populate, you know, what carrier to use based on the price. And customers loved that. They didn't have to fool with these old routing guides. And we were one of the first companies we were the first company in Atlanta to come up with that. Now, there was some companies up north that had that, but we were the first one to introduce that in the Atlanta area, and I mean, it just sold like hotcakes, you know, and all we had to do was go out and present it, and yeah, I want it, you know, I want this, because it was just, the other way was just a bad way of doing it. It took up a lot of time, and our software made shipping so much easier, where you're sitting there at a computer and you put 2 zip codes in, it tells you what carrier to use and the price, and then we added on to that the reportings, how much you were shipping into a certain state, the weights and the number of shipments and all that kind of stuff, all the reports that you need to run a traffic department. Our software gave that information to you. And it really took off, and it really sold itself. I mean, you know, when we would go out and demonstrate it went like hotcakes. So we and of course you got to have people to you know, if there's a glitch in the software or something, you got to have IT guys there to fix it. But and then, like I said, we grew and grew and grew, and it was almost more than we can handle. I mean, we were having to hire people like crazy, and it was the largest. We were probably at one time the largest logistics company in the Atlanta area.
Wow, you had local contacts with trucking companies here in this area.
Yeah, absolutely. I used Floyd and Beasley up here. You know, I knew all those people up there, and I used to use Floyd and Beasley quite a bit. I gave them a lot of business, and I always tried to promote anything that I could in the Sylacauga area. And that's why I use Floyd and Beasley quite a bit.
Yeah, we're talking with Rick Morris, candidate for Sylacauga mayor in the August 25th election. And let's talk, Rick, a little bit about what you feel is advantages you might have about being mayor, and maybe some of the thoughts that you have that can better push this city forward.
Well, you know, in my opinion, and I've said this before, Sylacauga's kind of at a standstill, and I watched the city council meeting last night, and you know, Sylacauga's just doesn't have any money. I mean, and the only way we're going to get any money is raise taxes, and nobody wants that.
And you're a business guy,
yeah,
and saying this, we have no money.
Well, we don't. From what I can, you know, I'm not, you know, if elected, you know, I'm not 100% sure what our how much money we have and all that, but I do know that we owe a lot of money, and you can't borrow your way out of debt, you know, and the only way we're going to get any money for this city is to bring in new industry, and we just don't. We got industry, got some, but they don't employ a whole lot of people, and sales tax dollars is a big revenue producer. So you got to bring businesses in, and you've got to have some big industry come in here. I mean, Honda put Lincoln on the map. I mean, Honda, they could build new schools up there. They inject a lot of money into the city up there, and we need something like that here in Sylacauga, and we don't have it. And I've touched on this before, you cannot sit around and wait for somebody to knock on your door and say, hey, I want to build a corporation here, some industry. It's not going to happen. So you got to go to Montgomery and find out what's going on, who's thinking about moving to Alabama. You got to get with, heck, I'd like to get if elected, the first thing I'd do is I'd like to get an appointment with Governor Ivey. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to go down and sit down and talk with her and tell her the situation that our city's in, that we've got to have some industry in there, and because if we don't, we're not going to grow. And I know that they were talking last night about funding the retirement for the police and the firemen, from a tier 1 to a tier 2 is a big difference, and the city has got to fund that. And they had a hard time. They didn't make a decision last night on how they were going to fund that. And I'm all about paying and funding the firemen and the police department. I think we need to have top grade people, you know, working in those positions, because if I have a fire, I want a good fireman to come out and put my fire out. And if I got a situation where I need a good police officer to handle the situation, so you need top-notch employees in that department. And we just don't have, from what I understand now, looking at the city council meeting last night, we just don't have the funds and don't know where we're going to get those funds. And whoever is elected in this new election Tuesday, whoever gets those jobs, they've got some hard decisions to make, because we just don't have the money to do a lot of things that we want to do around here. And the only way you're going to get them is you got to get new industry in here, and you got to get more tax dollars to come in here and support this. And I'm not about borrowing a whole bunch of money, because you get in debt, and it just kind of snowballs, and you get yourself in a bad situation.
Mm. When did you begin to toss it around about, this is the first time you run for office?
Yeah,
you're not a political person.
I'm not a political person at all. I don't even like politics. I really don't. And you know, the bashing between the Democrats and Republicans, I don't even listen to that stuff. But you know, city government is not, it shouldn't be, the size of Sylacauga shouldn't be political at all. And I got into this with my business background, knowing how to manage money, and knowing how you got to manage employees, and I have that experience, and I just feel like I got a lot to offer Sylacauga as far as running our city. Because believe me, I've been in situations where I'd get up in the morning. I didn't, you know, when we first started out, I was like, how am I going to meet payroll? Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, and I know how to deal with banks. I've had to borrow money from banks. You know, I know how to deal with people, and you just can't sit back and wait on things to happen. You've got to be aggressive, and you got to do what you got to do to get industry in here, and I think you have to work with Montgomery a lot to find out what's going on, and because they know companies that are planning on moving to Alabama, or they're trying to get companies to move into Alabama, and then they will promote whoever, wherever they think it should be, and we need to get Sylacauga's name in front of those people down there in Montgomery, say, hey, Sylacauga would be a good, and Sylacauga is a great place, don't misunderstand me. I mean, it's just at a standstill right now, and with nothing for the kids to do, not a whole lot. I mean, we got people moving out of Sylacauga, we want them moving into Sylacauga, and it's just not happening. I know more people's moving out than's moving in, so that's not a good thing. So we just, if I got elected, the first thing I'd do is try to get more industry in here. And I'm not talking about, small industry is good, don't misunderstand me, it's good, but we need a big shot. We need a company in here to come in here and hire 400, 500, 600
Is it
people.
possible?
Yeah, it is. Now we're not, Sylacauga is got 280 going for us, but we don't have an interstate close by. That hurts us. But it still is Sylacauga is still a good place to have industry. It is. The only thing we have going against us is we don't have an interstate.
We've got, and we've had this population 12 and some change or right around there for a long time.
Exactly. And I think we might be stretching that a little bit. But anyway, yeah, and like I said, I love this city, and I feel like I can give a lot back. I touched on this before last time I was on your show. I'm getting a little bored, and I think I have a lot to offer the city as far as running the city government. I think I know how to get along with people. I'm not going to come in and just, we got to do this, do this. You have to do things kind of slow, and you got to figure out what's going on. You got to get in the office and kind of, it's kind of like putting a puzzle together. You got to put the pieces together and figure out what's going on and what needs to be done and what needs to be prioritized and that kind of thing. But I do know this: if we don't get some more revenue in this city, we're going to be in trouble.
What would you say to people, and we heard this at the forum a week or so ago, there seems to be a thing about, well, if you're successful, you're not one of us.
Well, yeah, I get that, but I don't understand why people think that. But I've always wanted my friends and whoever I know to be successful. Mm-hmm. I pull for friends of mine to be successful. I want people to be successful, and I want Sylacauga to be successful. And right now, Sylacauga is not in a bad position. We're not in a bad position, but we do owe a lot of money, and we can't borrow ourselves into something. You got to generate more, like I said, tax revenue, and we don't want to raise taxes. Nobody wants that, and we just got to get new industry in here, and that's the bottom line. I mean, we can talk about all kind of things, but if you don't get more tax revenue in here and to run the city, then we can't hire good people, and we can't give raises, and because we want to get good quality people in here we want good police officers, we want good firemen, and we have them now. But I think the city council said we were like 3 or 4 people short. I might have misunderstood that, but I thought we were 3 or 4 police officers short. Mm-hmm. So, and I think it cost about $30,000 to train a fireman or train a police officer. So, we just got to come up with, and I really feel for the person that, the people that get into office. If anybody's replaced the incumbents, which may happen, it may not. Who knows? But I'm just saying, whoever gets those positions and whoever's in those positions has got some tough decisions to be made, because there's only so much money that comes in, and you're trying to spend more than that's coming in. It's not good. I mean, I know that from business. You can't do that.
You all employees, whether it's me or someone watching or one of our guys here, we want to be appreciated.
Yeah.
You know, and being a successful businessman, you've understood that for a long time.
Yes, you have to, and there's you really got to treat people. You know, I grew up, and I don't think I'm any better than the guy that's picking up my trash or anybody. I've never thought that I was better than one of my employees, because really I'm not. Mm-hmm. And I've never thought that way, and I don't think people should feel that way. You know, people want to be treated. I want to be treated. I want to be treated like people want to be treated like you want to be treated. So I don't. I've never looked down on people. I never have. I've dealt with people that are on the shipping dock that that own an hourly wage, and I've dealt with people that are worth millions of dollars. So I feel like I can talk to anybody. I mean, I've never forgotten who I am. Mm-hmm. I mean, I come from the mill village, okay, and I've done okay, but I don't want people to think that I'm, some guy mentioned at that forum that called me $1 million Rick. Well, I don't want to be known like that. I mean, I kind of let that, I didn't pay it a whole lot of attention, but I didn't think that was appropriate. But because I don't want people to look at me like that, because I want to be I'm an ordinary guy. I mean, you know my background. I grew up in the mill village, and I grew up out at the waterworks, and I come from Sylacauga, a small town, and I'm just basically a good old country boy that happened to work his tail off to get, what I have, and I want everybody to be successful. And
whomever is elected, whether it's council or mayor, incumbent or non-incumbent, coming up on Tuesday, there's going to be some tough issues that have to be faced.
I'm telling you, that's true. Whoever, if all the incumbents stay there, or if we have some new ones come in, they've got some really hard decisions to be made about Sylacauga, because we're in a tough spot. This COVID-19 has got the whole country in a mess. We've had 170,000 people killed from this virus. We've got unemployment is where it was during the Great Depression. We got to get those people back to work, and Sylacauga's going to affect Sylacauga, and I'm afraid to say it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I hate to be a pessimist about that, but it's just the truth, because it's going to hurt us in sales dollars. I mean.
You keep going back to that. You see that as a real challenge for Sylacauga.
It is. It's going to get worse too. I'm afraid until this virus gets out of here and people get back to work. It hurts sales tax dollars and revenue. And like I said, nobody wants to. I know this for a fact. Some cities, the larger cities, have had to ask for city employees to take a 10% cut in pay, and we don't. I'm not for that. I'm for people making as much money as they can, and to provide. I want people to make a good living to provide for their family, and everybody wants to. People are got pride, and they want to provide for their families, and. I know this doesn't really have anything to do with Sylacauga city government, but Alabama not having a lottery is to me is terrible. I mean, I lived in Georgia over there with a lottery, and my wife taught school over there for 30 years, and she used to take money out of her pocket and pay for school supplies for kids that couldn't afford it. And we'd take it out of our pockets and pay for it. And we didn't mind doing that. But once that lottery got in there, I mean, every kid had its own computer. She had more than really what she needed. And she didn't have to spend any money. So I just don't understand Sylacauga doesn't have the lottery, and I just don't get that, because
That's something Alabama struggled with for years.
I mean, it has, and I really would like to get to find out. I mean, I don't understand it. I really don't. Mississippi's got it now, and I mean, I think there's 4. I looked it up. I think there's 4 states in the United States that doesn't have the lottery. So you can't tell me that the other, what is that? We got 48 states that have it. 46 states, or whatever, and all of them's got it. You can't tell me that all of those states are wrong, because, I mean, it would do a lot to help the schools, and it's got to be handled correctly. Don't misunderstand me. You can't just, get the lottery, and you got to have it's got to go to the right places.
Let's quickly talk about one of the issues. We've got 3 or 4 minutes left with Rick Morris, candidate for mayor in Sylacauga City Council on August 25th. Much talk about the swimming pool, a splash pad, a new recreation center. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, if we had the money to build that, I'm all for it. I know it's like a 55,000 square foot building, and it's supposed to be a indoor swimming pool and a walking track. And all that, and I'm 100% for that, if you can pay for it. If we don't have the money to build it and pay for it, do you want to go in debt? And I think they said $9.5 million. I think it's probably going to be more like, when you start adding all the amenities that they want to have, it's probably going to be closer to $15 million. And if we can afford that and we can do it, yes, it would be great for Sylacauga. But Sylacauga don't have the money to do that right now. I think we need to spend the $250,000 to fix the current swimming pool we have, fix it up a little bit, and demolish it and start all over again, and then have a pool for next summer, and then start thinking about how we're going to pay for a new civic center. That's just my opinion. Now, I mean, but I'm all for. I understand you got to borrow money to make money, and if it'll help Sylacauga grow and it'll help bring an industry in. But right now there's nothing to do in Sylacauga.
Final 30 seconds right here. Why should people go to the poll and vote for you on Tuesday?
Okay, the reason they should vote for me is because I have business experience. I started a business from scratch and built it up and worked my tail off and made it a big business. And I hate to keep mentioning money, because I don't want to get that reputation of being a money guy, because I'm not. But I do know how to run a business, and running the mayor's office is basically, you don't have a vote, so it's basically managing Sylacauga's money. And I know how to manage money, and I know I don't have any problem giving money out. But I think I need to know where they're going to spend that money and how it's going to be spent and held accountable. Yeah. And so I don't think I'd have a problem doing that.
Rick, thanks for being with us today.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Rick Morris, candidate for Sylacauga City Council in the Tuesday Sylacauga City election. I'm Jim Abrams. Thanks for watching.